follow the InterVarsity on their Instagram and on their Facebook page. And this week, Kathleen actually had a testimony on there that I asked her if I could read. It says, and so she said yes. So I just wanted to read that for you. Yeah, children, 5th grade on down. I see some of them just ignoring what I'm doing and doing it anyways, but good. That's great. Yeah, sorry about that. I was just excited for what we just did and excited to read this passage, or this testimony. Kathleen writes and says, I'm a planner, and knowing what my future looks like is part of that. This semester, I've been struggling with the uncertainty of my future. I've always had a plan of what I was going to do after Geneseo, but in the past year, I've been forced to step back and change my plans. This semester has been a big test of just how much I let go and let God. Let God's plan for my future come into place. Let God show me what's next. I've been reading through the Old Testament this semester, Joshua, Judges, and 1 Samuel. And while I was reading, I noticed that all the successful leaders and judges all approached God first. They didn't go into war with their own plans, but instead they waited and listened to God's instructions. The more I read Old Testament books, the more I see the need for me to pray and listen to God instead of taking matters into my own hands. So starting with my day with prayer and reading the Word has helped me stay less anxious and more at peace with the unknown. In Matthew chapter 6, verse 31 to 32, I'm reminded that God already knows what I need and already knows what's in store for me. It keeps me grounded and has helped me be more content with the wonderful things in my life. What a neat testimony. I start with that because we're actually going to be having a different kind of Sunday. So if you're visiting with us or if you're watching on Facebook Live, I just want to let you know that this is not a normal Tuesday. Yeah, Tuesday. Exactly. See? It is not a normal Tuesday. It's not even a normal Sunday. So, yeah. I told you guys a couple of weeks ago about this, that this is going to be a bit different of a Sunday. And since the beginning of the year, I've been, or maybe you've heard me use the phrase over and over again, every member a minister. At one point, I even threatened to change the signs on our doors that say exit and entrance on the outside, exit on the inside, to change those around because really when we come here together, we're exiting our ministry. And when we come in here we're being equipped and filled and encouraged and enabled. And then when we leave, we're entering our ministry. And that's just been our theme for this whole year. It's because in our endeavor as a body of Christ to know Christ and to make him known in our communities, in this community, in the schools here and the campus in particular, we've taken on this new initiative. It's really kind of a new paradigm for us as a church. It's a shift in the way we think, in the way we operate. You see, the church model, the current church model for decades, maybe longer, has been to find a way to get lost people to come to church. Build a program, find where they're itching and scratch it. Fill a void. Make what we do splashy and add pizzazz to it somehow so as to wow them. Do whatever it takes to get lost friends, neighbors, and people to come to church. Build great buildings. Build great programs. Have awesome worship. I call it the Field of Dreams approach. Anybody familiar with the movie Field of Dreams? You know, what's the tagline in that? If you build it, they will come. That has been, so here's two significant problems with this approach. At least two, but there's two. So the first one is simply it didn't really work in the first place, right? I mean, once we got them in the door with some catchy attraction that we felt, or maybe we guilted our people into dragging their friends and neighbors and loved ones, and somehow maybe we'd handcuff them to the pew and demand that they like it. And then we smile at them and we tell them just how much we love them and then send them on their way and feel like we've done our job. But that's just not worked. Well, that's the first problem with the Field of Dreams approach. The second problem is it's really not the right model anyways. It never, the church was never designed to work that way. From the very beginning, if you go back into the book of Acts, into the New Testament, we see the church being born and exploding across the world. They didn't build buildings or tell people, go out and invite your friends to church so the church can tell them about Jesus. It's not what they did. Jesus said, I want you to go into all the world and tell people the gospel. I will build my church. That's what he said. You go, you tell people about Jesus, and I'll build my church. That's what he said. Jesus actually deputized every member of the church to be a minister of the gospel. That's why we're talking about this, because that's what we see in the Bible. We see Jesus deputizing everybody in the church and making them ministers of the gospel to go into all the world and tell them about his great love for them. Every member a minister. So this morning, instead of the usual format of preaching, we're highlighting a couple of adventurous people who've actually caught that vision, and we're actually going to share their adventures with you. At the end of our time together, though, we're going to, if we have a moment, we'll pray. I don't think we'll get to a chance of asking any questions about it, but we'll get a chance to pray for them. And the first adventurous person is Nancy Stelzer. Now, Nancy and Paul couldn't be here with us this morning, so I videotaped her adventure last week. Nancy has taken the initiative to begin a ministry in her local community, and it's really kind of neat. And then after Nancy, we have another couple that I'd like to share. So if you have it, Gail, I hope it'll work. Here it is. I'm here with Nancy Stelzer. This is Pastor Mike behind the camera. Nancy's going to just share a few things about what God's been doing in her life, and then we're going to have a couple questions for her, and we're just excited. Thank you, Nancy. Why don't you share a little bit about who you are?
I'm Nancy Stelzer, and I belonged to CCC for about 27 years now, and we live right here on Center Street, and I got this idea when Mike said, go. He said, you don't need me, go. And so I thought back to, it wasn't long before this that I was told about this church that used to go to the laundromat. And I'm calling this my laundromat mission. And they went to the laundromat and they put up a sign. It was a catchy title, but I think I threw that out, so I can't remember the catchy title, but it wouldn't have been a whole church anyway. It would have been just me. So anyway, I remembered back then, and I thought, okay, well, what other place could there be where people from different walks of life would come to be accessible by me? So I thought, okay, and that's how I started. So every week I take a load of laundry to do, even though I don't need to do the laundry, and they haven't caught on to that yet, even the people at the laundromat, but that's okay. I take it because I'm afraid they'll arrest me for loitering if I don't. Anyway, so I take my laundry, and while I'm getting it done, I meet various people here or there, and I hand them. I say, can I hand you a gift from our church? And they say, sure, most of the time. They'll say, sure. And with that, I hand them some quarters sometimes to do their laundry, and they're very appreciative most of the time when I do that. And then I have a tract as well that talks about the road to knowing Jesus. So I have to say I've met a lot of people. I can't say that everybody I've been meeting that is really open to the Lord in a sense that they would sit down with me and have a wonderful conversation. But I've had a few opportunities to share, and I know that the Lord is planting seeds. So some of the people I've met, this is just giving you a small idea of some of the different walks of life. I met a policeman and his girlfriend who ran a B&B on the lake. I met a gas station attendant who was also a teacher. I met a home health aide who was 19 years old and taking care of everything at home as well as working, and had formerly gone to church. So I'm hoping that that will draw her back, what I gave her. We'll see. Or not that, but God. And then I met a man who owns Avon, the mother of a man who owns Avon Geneseo Lumber. So there's just, and a retired principal even, who I knew, and if it hadn't been for the mask, I would have recognized him, but he recognized me. So he was there one afternoon as well. I'm really blessed by the people I meet most of the time, and I'm not saying everybody, like I said, is open and saying, oh yeah, tell me. But I do get the opportunity once in a while, and I pray for God's boldness, because it's not easy to just walk up to a person and say, can I give you this? Have you been to church? Do you know anything about Jesus? Blah, blah, blah. I say things, but sometimes they don't want to share. But then other times I get a chance. So I pray for these people. If I get to meet them and have their name, I pray for them. And if they give me a prayer request, I pray for that. I've also become acquainted with the workers there, the two girls that work on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday, Thursday. And they're both Christians. So that's helpful. They know what I'm doing. They have to, because they hear me. And one of them was looking for a church, but she decided to stay in her church. But anyway, they're both wonderful girls, younger women, and it's nice to know them too. So they address me by name now every time I go in.
That's neat. What do you find is the most difficult thing about it all?
I never know if there's going to be people in the laundromat. So if I get there and there's nobody there, I have to wait. And then I hesitate to do men. I'm kind of uncomfortable. So it takes me more boldness to walk up to a man. But it can be their way, the way they are, that I sometimes will be brave enough to do that. So I think that's most difficult, is if I think I'm going to go up to a man, I'm hoping that he would be kind and receptive.
So when you first started it, before you started it, you saw the idea with somebody else. You said.
I heard about it.
Yeah, you heard about the idea with somebody else. And then at what point did it click in your mind? And you're like, oh, I can do that.
Well, actually I thought our church would do it, but when I kind of gave up on that idea, and you said, you don't need me, go. So I thought, okay, Mike, I'm going to go. And I'm going to do this mission at the laundromat.
Did I have a scowl on my face when I said
No.
Oh, good.
No, but you were so serious about it. You don't really need me. You're all ministers.
Right.
You're all able to do that.
That's right. Great.
So I thought, that's what I'm going to do. But I need you, Lord. I need you to help me.
So this is the idea that God kind of sparked in you. Just how would you encourage somebody else? Maybe not everybody's going to go to the laundromat, but how would you just encourage them? What would you say to somebody who's even struggling with the idea that I can be a minister?
Well, we all know Jesus is our friend. So we all can tell the story of how Jesus helps us and how the Lord helps us. And if we have an opportunity to speak to somebody who's struggling about how the Lord helps us, then that gives us an in on how maybe he could help them.
Yeah.
But I know that doesn't always happen. We don't always have opportunities. So for me, I know it's risky.
Yeah.
And it always is a risk, though. But I read in one of my devotionals, taking risks for the Lord is okay.
Yeah.
And whoever, if somebody puts you down for it, shake the dust off your feet and keep going. So, anyway, yeah, I think
That's great. Thank you very much for sharing. I really appreciate it. I'm sorry you can't be in church with us on
sorry.
Sunday when we show this, but we will definitely, just want to thank you for your time.
You're
Thanks.
welcome.
Hey guys, I actually know how many of you guys are already thinking, where's the door now? Like, I'm going to have to go to the laundromat? Of course not. You don't have to go. And so that's why I asked her that last question. It's like, what if everybody hears us? I'm thinking to myself, everybody hears us and they're thinking, okay, I've got to go to the laundromat? No, you don't have to go to the laundromat. Trust me when I tell you, you don't even have to tell them half of what she was saying, because she has these, if you know Nancy at all, you know that she has the ability to just make friends. And she's great at it. And so what was neat is when she said, sometimes I get to talk about Jesus and sometimes I don't. Her point in going there is to create an opportunity to be what the Bible would call salt and light. Just go and be in a place, find a place where you might be able to meet people, be in a place where you might be able to engage people. And so that's really why we wanted to show that. Not because that's the model that we're holding up. No, we're holding that up as just an example. And so the next I want to share, or have come share, actually is another adventurous couple. And so the fun thing is actually if you look out across the congregation and you can start to pick out people who you might think would be adventurous. And then you start to think about people who probably wouldn't be. And so now some of you are looking around right now. And you probably might have picked Nancy, maybe, but you probably wouldn't have picked Tim and Linda Letson to start doing something. Yet they're doing something in their local community. I think there's an amazing idea. They just had their second one yesterday. And I want them to come and share. So Tim and Linda are going to come up and share just briefly about what God has showed them that they can do.
Good morning. Well, Mike asked us to come, and so we said, well, we'll come. We'll share. We're not the normal people you see up front. We're usually the ones that are in the back or kind of blend into everything.
Behind the scenes.
Behind the scenes. But we wanted to share this unique opportunity that sort of came to us. I guess I'm going to say God brought it to us. We weren't really looking for it. But, many people may not come to a church, but they might come to a movie theater. That's kind of the idea. And what we started, I guess, let me go back to the very beginning. Linda and I, we like history. We like old things. We like going to cemeteries and figuring out, what the history of a town is. And in Dansville, there is a movie theater right on Main Street called Star Theater. It was built in 1921. It was built during the time when there was silent movies and vaudeville acts, and that's the theater. I mean, the organ is still in front when they used to play it for the movies, and this has the orchestra pit and that kind of thing. So it's kind of a gem, and we've always known that. And it's family owned and operated, and as my grandson Gabe said, it's 100 years old. And he was right. It was 100 years old now. And with the pandemic, well, their business was closed for 6 months. And we kind of felt like, wow, how are they going to survive? We'd hate to see them go out of business. And they opened up in November with limited seating, which they're still at, because that's what the rules and regulations are. And around Christmas time, we noted that a business had sponsored a movie during the Christmas season. And so in January, we approached them and said, hey, how can we help? This is tough times. And, we don't really want to see you disappear, because, you know, you're an asset to the community. As they call themselves, they are the neighborhood theater. That's what they bill themselves as. If you happen to go, they'll tell you they're the neighborhood theater. And so we said, hey, you know, is there a way that we can help? You know, we heard about sponsoring. Could we sponsor a movie or showing or something? And they said, yeah, you could do that. And they kind of explained how they kind of did it. So we said, sure, let's set something up. So we actually sponsored Princess Bride in February. And they had a good turnout, and it was kind of fun. We brought our grandsons, and, you know, that kind of worked. And so they were appreciative. Well, after that, I think the Lord kind of laid on our minds, like, well, okay, showing a movie is fine, but, you know, why don't we find a movie that's going to have eternal value, not just picking a movie? So then Linda and I, we did our research, and we found the Affirm Films, that their website. So you have to show a movie legally in a theater. You can't just pick one off the shelf and bring a DVD in. That doesn't work that way. So you have to get a license, and you have to figure out how to do all that. And we did. We did our research, and we talked to the people who run the theater, and there was a little more red tape to do that than just figure out how to do that. But we did manage to do that, and they were willing to find the right license and go through whatever broker they had to do to find it, because they don't normally work with Affirm Films. And so then Facing the Giants was a movie that we had chosen, and they were happy to work with us to do that. And we really sensed that, you know, God was leading that whole thing to say, hey, you know, let's show a movie that's going to have eternal meaning and value to those who attend. And actually yesterday it was shown, and for those that attended, I think it was very good. And we also weren't quite sure, you know, how the folks that run the theater would think of that, because, you know, we don't really know what their belief is. So we were a little nervous, and at the end, I know the wife there, she came up and she was very excited, and you know, and the husband too, and they wanted to work with us again. So we were very pleased with the outcome in terms of that. So we're going to continue to work with them and to sponsor a movie, and I guess that it would be neat if, you know, if we have more of these coming down the road, if you want to participate by bringing a friend or a family member that doesn't know the Lord, you know, perhaps that can be a seed that could be planted. So, did you want to share too? I got to let my wife share. She said give her some time, so I'll step aside.
I just wanted to say that it's really sort of a three-pronged ministry. We don't have a whole lot of opportunity to be with our grandsons, so we have chosen these two movies thinking of them as well as the community. We also see that the people who run the theater have a good heart, but I don't know, and we don't know where they may stand, but they're open to our continuing. And also there's opportunity to reach into the community. It's also a work in progress. The first movie, we didn't know exactly what the process was, so we got him into a little bit of trouble.
Yeah, I forgot that.
Yeah. But we worked that problem out, and then this time he because he has a contract, he can't show a film that we choose at the same time as he is supposed to show his contracted film. So we had to show it at 11:30 in the morning, which is not really the best time, and so the turnout wasn't as good. But the wife came to us and said, in the middle, actually kind of in the middle of the movie, said, hey, you know, maybe we can do this on they have something special in Dansville the first Friday of the month. So maybe we could do something like this the first Friday of the month at 5 o'clock and have people come in for a free movie. So we appreciate your prayers. We'd appreciate your participation when another movie comes up. And it's exciting because really it's just that we're God's channels. It's not that we're doing anything.
Did you want questions?
Yeah, I just wondered, how did you end up on, you kind of gave history, which is great. Where do you see it going? If you could dream, where would you like to see it go?
Well, I guess I'd like to see us having, at least several times a year have this kind of movie. And, it'd be great to have everybody in the community participate, bring friends, family, people who need to hear the word and fill the place. I mean, right now they're limited to 50, but they're going to have to eventually release that restriction so they can have more.
One thing that was neat was after the movie, we took our grandson to our store and had fixed lunch and had lunch with him there. And the trip between the theater and the store, as well as during the luncheon, we had the opportunity to ask questions and to engage him. Mm-hmm. So if you were to bring someone, it would be good to apply to account for some time afterward where you can discuss what the movie was and what it might mean in their lives.
Sure, thank you guys. Again, it's an idea, right? I mean, we're not here trying to force anything, of course, but we're also here because of that. We're trying to find ways to make every member a minister, for everyone to come up with. So my question for us together, though, is, okay, so maybe it's not a laundromat, maybe it's not a movie theater. What is it? What is it God has gifted you to do? What is it that God has kind of put on your heart, and you're thinking to yourself, no way, I could never do that. I'm pretty confident with God you could. So what's the fear that you have to overcome? And why would that fear, what lie are you believing instead of the truth of God that would stop you from doing that is one of the questions I have. And then if you were dreaming and you could do anything, maybe we need to start there. If you're just thinking, I think I could do this. It's just an idea, folks. That's all we're doing here this morning. There's actually one other, I was half tempted to just put somebody on the spot, but I wouldn't know who to put on the spot because this last week, well, I kind of could put Irene on the spot. She's the one who started this next little adventure, but it involved Irene, it involved Matt and Gail Berger, it involved Andrew, the one who's a professor, and it involved myself. It just happened kind of thing. I'm just going to try to make a long story short. There was a lady named Shahida. She called Irene to rent a storage unit because her son is a student on campus, and he had to leave the campus to deal with a crisis. And so Shahida calls Irene to rent a storage unit because they're going to have to clean out his room. And so that put in, so Irene just engaged her in conversation on the phone. And Shahida, in the course of conversation, discovered a little bit more about her story. And so she just started actually to love and support Shahida over the phone. And then in the course of conversation, Shahida's mentioning different things. And so then Irene says, well, we have, where I go to church, there's some professors that go to church there. Maybe I could help put your son in contact with them. And I'd love for you to meet our pastor and just have these different opportunities maybe when you come out. And so she was all game about that. And then Irene says, well, I bet that the church would probably also be willing to help you clean out the room and maybe load it and take it to storage. And all, there's probably lots of ways that we could help you. Do you have a ride from the train station? That kind of stuff. It was just simple stuff. It wasn't like grand plans. It wasn't big. It wasn't fancy. It wasn't pizzazz. It was just, hey, how can I help you? It looks like you're just having a struggle, and we'd like to help you. So maybe, so she gave Shahida's name and number to me with her permission, and then between Andrew and Matt and Gail and myself, Matt and Gail went and picked him up at the train station, or actually at their hotel in Rochester, to bring him to the hotel here in Geneseo. And then Andrew picked him up to get him from the hotel the next day down to campus, and I met him down there with my big van that everybody picks on me about. And we, just the four of us, Andrew, Shahida and her son, and Andrew and myself, just started cleaning out his room, and we loaded it in, and we took it to the storage unit, and then later that day, Shahida, her son, and myself all went to lunch. And here, this is what she kept saying to me, over and over and over. Not in a weird way, though, but why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? You don't even know me. She said, I don't go to your church, and I'm probably never going to go to your church. And she said, I'm not even of your religion, and I'll probably never be of your religion. And she wasn't sarcastic at all. She says, I'm Muslim. Why are you doing this? Why is your church doing this? And she just, without exaggerating, she had to have asked that question. Even though I tried to answer the question every single time, she had to have asked that question at least 5 times. And I know I'm not the only one that she asked that question to. Throughout the course of the time together, Matt and Gail took them back to the train station. They picked her up at the hotel and took them back. And Matt gave her a book. And I didn't even think about giving her a book. Matt gave her a book. And it's kind of a devotional book. And here he's giving a Christian devotional book about Jesus to this Muslim. And she received it. And then at lunchtime, he had given it to her on the way down. At lunchtime, when I met with her, she was reading it and really appreciating it and enjoying it, actually. And so there's just that idea of what we're trying to do here is to be really literally, in some cases, the hands and feet of Christ. We're trying to portray Jesus through our actions. And if we get the opportunity to engage them in conversation, we're going to tell them about Jesus. But I don't know what it's going to look like for you. But here's the bottom line for all of us. The bottom line for all of us is, friends, this is what it looks like to be Christian. This is what it looks like to be the church of Jesus Christ. For centuries, we got lulled into this idea that this was the extent of what it meant to be the church. We'd gather on Sunday mornings. Now, please hear me. This is, I believe, biblically and very invaluable. You cannot put a price tag on the importance of gathering on Sunday mornings. But we lulled ourselves into thinking that this was the extent of church. And what we're seeing and what we're just reminding ourselves of as we go back and look at the church is we say, no, actually the church has been called to go. So with that in mind, I don't have any sign-up sheets. I'm not starting a program. I'm not asking you to join a committee. I'm asking you to envision a different future. I'm asking you to imagine when you leave not seeing an exit sign, but seeing an entrance sign, and asking yourself, what would you have me do, God? What would you have me do? So I'm going to bow in prayer, and we're going to just spend a few minutes. We're going to praise the Lord together, and we're going to thank God for his goodness. So God, thank you as we have had the opportunity to be encouraged and to see the adventures of Nancy and Tim and Linda and Irene and Matt and Gail and Andrew and these different adventures. Thanking even back to Kathleen's testimony, her adventure. She served on the outreach team for 2 years on campus, trying to help the fellowship grow in its ways in which it reaches into the campus. Thank you for that. Thank you for Young Life and Narrowgate and the different ministries to the college, to the youth, and to our children who are increasingly trying to find ways to just be present. We live in such a tumultuous world, and we're just trying to bring the love that Jesus has given us and the peace that Christ has given us. We're trying to take it in the message of the gospel of Jesus outside and show that there is, in fact, a God who loves you deeply. He loves you so deeply that he sent his only son to die on the cross for you. How amazing you are, God. Thank you for the opportunity to hear these testimonies. And God, we pray you'd continue to show them, and particularly those who shared this morning, Nancy and Tim and Linda, show them where they would go next, God, how you would have them continue on, encourage them, give them wisdom, give them strength to do it, and also really just an increased vision for what you've called them to do. And thank you in Jesus' name.